Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to another recommendation video. This is one of my favorite tropes in age gap, or I don't even know if it's a trope, whatever. It's a trope to me. It is a older woman, younger man. Now, some people call this like a reverse age gap, and I know why they do. It's because we normally see older men, younger women. But that term can be like a little bit offensive to some people to hear that it's like a reverse age gap. What does that mean? There's no reverse because it's not expected that a man be older than a woman. That's just what we're like used to. So it's one of those where it's just like when you hear reverse age gap, you like know what it means, but it's also not the best term to use. So my point is that these are age gap where the woman is older. Some of them it's only a couple of years and some of them it's quite a lot. But I've made this video one other time before because one of my favorite books ever has an older woman, younger man. And that video is like really old. I'll still include it, but it was a very interesting one. I just finished filming my Outlander review, so I still have a little bit of whiskey right here. So there's that. But let's go ahead and dive into these. I want this to be a nice, quick video. We'll see how well I do. But we're going to start with a couple historicals that are actually older women. So the first one that I actually read this pretty recently, and it is Joss and the Countess by S.M. LaViolette. This is book 2 in the Seducers series. You definitely can read this series out of order. But all of these books are about characters who used to be in sex work, and they don't really do it anymore. Not because they didn't necessarily like it, but because they either got different jobs or maybe now they own said sex work. Anyway, moving on. So this one is about widowed Countess Alicia Selwood, and she has had a very difficult life, but now she is a widow, she's independent, and she takes whatever lovers that she pleases and lives the life she wants to live. And she has a servant slash bodyguard named Joss. Now, again, Joss, he is, I think, about 10 years younger than her. He used to be a sex worker, like we said, but he just got kind of tired of it because it felt kind of like meaningless to him. Not that he felt demeaned, he just didn't enjoy the work anymore. And he also has a bit of a dom streak in him. He enjoys doing that if the woman enjoys it. But what he's gotten tired of is again, it being like meaningless. So he becomes the bodyguard for this countess, and he actually like takes her to her different liaisons. And her most recent one she had was her breaking up with her lover because it was not going well. And this man gets very kind of like irate about it. And anyway, they definitely kind of circle around each other, and they eventually are having an affair, and then some interesting things about Alicia's past come out. I really enjoy this series. This is by Minerva Spencer is the other name for her. So if you don't know, Minerva Spencer has a series, and Minerva Spencer is actually the pen name for S.M. LaViolette. It's an interesting scenario where like S.M. LaViolette, which seems like a pen name, is actually the name of this author, but Minerva Spencer is her like traditionally published name. And she wrote the book called Dangerous, which was one of my favorite books last year. Anyway, spiraling around. So this series, The Seducers, it's a very sexy series. I wouldn't call it like historical erotica. It's just that the sex that happens is a little more bold and a little more sexy than in some others you would read, but this is still a romance. It's just a little more unconventional than some others, and I really loved this couple. Joss is a very like stoic hero. He definitely has those dom vibes, and I love that he's like a younger man who's the dom, and him and Alicia together is fantastic. Then we have a fun one, and this one the heroine is only a couple years older, and this is a bit of like a historical rom-com in my opinion. And this one is The Duke Who Didnt by Courtney Milan. The characters are actually quite young in this one. Our hero is like 22, 23, and our heroine is 25. They are, as you can tell, of Asian descent, both of them. Our hero is actually half Chinese, and he becomes a duke, and so he's very like, he's very well known as being like this half Chinese dude. But there's this small community where our heroine Chloe lives with her father, who is a cook, and he's invented this very delicious like sauce, and he'd actually had a recipe like stolen from him. And so instead of getting to profit off of his invention, they've been living, you know, kind of paycheck to paycheck, as it were. There is this yearly like festival that happens, which is where Jeremy and Chloe first met, and they would see each other every year for many, many years. And then all of a sudden Jeremy stopped coming, and Chloe was kind of heartbroken because she really liked him, and he just disappeared and hadn't been back. And now 3 years later, he's back, and he's ready to make a play for Chloe, and he's gonna have to win her back. So this book was just adorable, in my opinion. There's no third act breakup in this book. It is a slow burn. It is sweet and pretty relatively clean. This isn't an overly spicy book, but it just really warmed my heart. Like, this book, it made my heart so happy, and I love that the hero is obsessed with her. Like, he loves her. He just doesn't know how to convince her that they would be good together, but he's gonna figure it out. Then I can't believe this one hasn't been on a video like this, because I feel like I've loved this book forever, but you know, I made that video over 2 years ago. So of course we have to show Thief of Shadows by Elizabeth Hoyt. This is actually my autographed copy that I got for a gift from Tori. Thank you so much, Tori. I do obviously have a copy with the step back. This has one of my favorite step backs, but I thought it would show off my shiny autographed copy. So this book is book 4 in the Maiden Lane series. This is about Winter Makepeace, who is living a double life. He is the headmaster of a home for foundling children, and he also is basically Batman. Let's just say, except without the riches. That's the thing. But anyway, he's called the Ghost of St. Giles. He's a protector, a judge, fugitive, and he ends up getting hurt at the end of the last book, actually. And so we have our heroine, Lady Isabel Beckenhall, who is a widow, and she is, I think, like 5, 6, 7 years older than him. And oh no, the light is going to ruin me. We'll keep talking. And she ends up coming across the Ghost of St. Giles laying in the street, and so she takes him home to take care of him. He's able to keep his mask on, and he ends up making, he gets away from her. And then he is in a little bit of a pickle with his job as the head of the foundling home, because there's this charity that is supporting the home, and they think that he's not a great representative. And so he needs to kind of polish himself up and be a little more approachable, a little more charismatic. And Isabel gets assigned to help him, and she's very attracted to him, but she doesn't want to get involved. And he has always known that he could only have like one love in his life. He could have the children. Well, there was 3 things he decided to choose from. He's like, I could have my own family, I could be the Ghost of St. Giles, and I can take care of the children. I can do 2 of those. I can't have all 3. And so he chose the Ghost of St. Giles and to take care of the children. So he is actually also, he's a virgin, which I love, male virgin. And when he starts to fall for Isabel, it's fantastic. And Isabel has all her reasons why they won't work. And he's like, yeah, but I'm going to make it work. And there's something about that just really works for me. I love Winter. He's one of my favorite male characters. This book is fantastic. I do recommend that you read at least the book before this one, or, just read all of the Maiden Lane. If you really, really want to, you can just read this one, because you always can. With historicals, it's usually okay to jump around in the series, but I'm just saying, you're missing out because it's fantastic. Okay, there we go. All right, then I want to share Burn for Me by Cate. This is one I've talked about many times, so we'll go kind of fast with this one, but this is a professor and a college student. And so our hero, he's 18. He has been living with his uncle for the past many years because his father went to prison for, I think, like embezzlement, and well, it was that, and also his, like, what he was dabbling with, they were responsible for some people being like kidnapped and being trafficked, and he got caught and he went to jail, and then his mother actually killed herself from the shame of all of it, and so he's been an orphan who has had to live with his uncle, wasn't treated very well living with his uncle, and then his new professor of journalism at college is the woman who's responsible for his father getting caught and going to prison. So when he discovers this, he decides that he wants to take out his anger and frustrations and all the feelings he's having on this woman. And it's a very interesting scenario because this is kind of like a bully, like he's kind of bullying her / like trying to control her with blackmail. But it's also that the situation they're in couldn't happen if she didn't let it happen. She could stop him from manipulating her this way, but she feels guilty for the life that he's had because of what she did, even though she would still send his dad to prison if she had to do it again because he deserved it. So I just really appreciated this one. It's very sexy. It's very smutty, taboo in a lot of ways, dubious consent situations, but I love this book. Then I have a bit of a sweeter one. This one could almost be like, I wouldn't call it women's fiction, but this could almost be like romantic fiction, whatever. But it has a happily ever after, and I love this book. And this is an oldie but a goodie. This is On the Island by Tracy Garvis Graves. And this book is about Anna Emerson, who she's 30 years old, and she is a teacher who has become a private tutor. And so she's tutoring TJ, who's 16 years old, and he had cancer, so he's behind in his studies. And so his family is going on vacation for the summer, and they've hired this private tutor to travel with and help him catch up and just help him feel, more normal again. And the thing is, they end up stranded on Maldive Islands. There's 1,200 of these islands, and they end up crashed there, and it's just the two of them. So this is such an interesting story, and I haven't heard anyone talk about it in a long time, but this is one of my favorite survival stories, one of my favorite age gaps, kind of a forbidden situation, because he starts as 16 and she's 30. But this is a case of they're on the island for years together. This book takes place over a very long time. And it's definitely something that they both they really talk through what's happening between the two of them and what's going on. This isn't just a simple case of oh, you're the only person around, we're going to bang with each other. This book is extremely emotional, and the things that they go through together and their fight for survival is why I love survival stories. But this definitely is an older woman. This is a taboo, and it's so good. Their happily ever after is so satisfying once they get it because of everything they go through. Then I want to throw up, this is an oldie. This book actually came out the year I was born. So this book is almost 29 years old. And this was a viewer recommendation that I was like, sure, I'll try this. So this is actually a contemporary novel, but it came out in 1993. So it's not historical, but there are definitely a lot of things that date this book. When it's a contemporary book that came out in the 90s, it's very dated because contemporary, you're setting yourself up. But this is a very interesting one. So I'm just going to read the back of this because that's the best way. Johnny Harris is home again. His too tight jeans and belligerent attitude honed to perfection by a 10-year stretch in federal prison for murder. Now he's out on parole and ready for the job Rachel Grant has promised to help him begin a new life. Unlike the rest of the town, Rachel has always believed in her former students' innocence. But one thing has changed. The sullenly handsome boy she remembered is still sullen, still handsome, but no longer a boy. And now the small Kentucky town is alive with gossip and whispers of scandal, a friendship turned to passion, and Rachel abandons a lifetime of propriety in the ex-con's arms. Then the killer strikes again, and all evidence points to Johnny Harris. But Rachel knows he is innocent, and she knows she is next, as a shattering truth is uncovered and dark passions explode in the relentless summer of heat. So this book is very interesting. It is a former student and a teacher, and he went to prison for the rape and murder of a girl, and now he's out, and she offers him a job in her family like hardware store, and there's a lot of prejudice against him. And then there's a bit of a mystery because the killer is back, and everyone's going to point fingers at him. And Rachel has to decide if she wants to go to bat for him or what's going on. So I did really love this book. It again is very dated, but something that I really liked is that there is a lot of like prejudicial things that are said in this book for it coming out in the 90s. But our heroine, she really challenges a lot of the things being said, even in a book that came out like in the 90s. And I really appreciated that because there was some things being said where I'm like, oh, okay, it's from 93. I'll just ignore it. But even in this, the heroine was like, why are you talking like that? Like, that's pretty racist, or like this or whatever. And I really loved that because I was like, yeah, people knew better even 29 years ago. Okay. People knew better. Okay, now we just have a couple more that I don't have physical copies of to go through. And there is That Kind of Guy by Talia Hibbert. This one is fantastic. This is a woman who's a writer, and she ends up asking her friend, her guy friend, who is younger than her, if he will fake date her for a writer's conference she needs to go to, where she's going to like see her ex-husband there. I really love this one. There is some disability rep in this one as well. Talia Hibbert does a great job with that. There is If She Says Yes by Tasha L. Harrison. This is a son's best friend. This one is also an interracial romance. He is staying in his... So he's back in town. The hero is back in town because his best friend is getting married. His best friend's mom is now single. She is a sexy lady in her 50s, and he always had a crush on her when he was young. And now he's staying in her house, like for the wedding and everything, and things get a little bit spicy. This one, the hero is also a bit submissive. It's nothing like over the top, but there are some sex scenes where Mama is bossing him around, and it was delicious. So good. There is Between Us by Cheyenne, Cierra. This one is a bit more taboo because it is a son's best friend as well. But in this one, our heroine is married. Her husband is cheating on her, and she like knows about it. And then her son's friend is really into her, and he tells her he's into her when he's still in high school. And she is like, nothing is going to happen with us while you're still in school. In fact, nothing's going to happen with us, but really nothing's going to happen with us while you're in school. It's not going to happen. And I mean, it doesn't happen until he's not in school, but some stuff happens. Grading Curves by Naima Simone. This one is only about novella length. This woman goes in to get, I can't remember if it's a piercing or a tattoo. She goes in to get that from this guy, and then the next day he like shows up at her job, and he's not, or I mean, her job is she's a teacher, and he shows up. And I think it's like night classes though. Like he's not underage, but he's younger than her by quite a bit. And so, yeah, this is a student teacher, but where he is like, he's an adult and they're just in a role of student teacher, but it's like he's taking night classes or something like that. This was good, fun, and quick. And, oh, that was it because I already did those two. So there you go. Those are some older woman, younger man recommendations. Let me know what your favorites are. I've definitely read a lot more than this, some of which weren't like, because I try never to recommend books that weren't 4 or 5 stars for me. So you know that all of these that I've recommended to you are in 4 or 5 or even 6-star level for me. But let me know some of your favorites, and make sure you check out the other video I put up as well. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.